We are discussing GST rate rationalization from September 22nd, and GST is a market story. It is inflation story, it is consumption story, but moreover, it is a story about you viewers. Each one of you who is watching ET now from your home, how will it impact your income, your pocket? My colleague Snehi is standing by to answer just that question. She has spent hours just to research that. Snehi, for a family who has 4 people, how much of the budget will change after September 22nd?
GST rate cuts are just around the corner, making everyday spends from groceries to medicines cheaper. As per Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, the rejig is expected to put nearly 2 lakh crore rupees back into the hands of the consumers. But what does that mean for you as a family of 4 or as an individual consumer? Let's find out. But it's important to note that these are just ET Now estimates based on a survey internally conducted by us. To help you understand what the setup of this survey is, we've imagined 3 families across different income groups per month. Family A earns 28,000 rupees a month. Family B earns a monthly income of 1.5 lakh rupees, and you have family C at the end that's earning a monthly income of 5 lakh rupees. We'll track their spends and see what they are going to save after the September 22nd rate cuts are implemented. Now, to give you a picture on the maths that we've used, here's the math to begin with. Grocery bills, let's talk about that. They now work out about 4% cheaper based on a Kotak estimate for GST cut across categories that fall in this basket. Dining out, let's talk about that. That has gone from 12% to 5%, which is a 7% saving. Entertainment such as movie tickets is unchanged at 18%, so no benefits there. Telecom too, no benefits over there as well on your telecom or your mobile phone bill. Medicines have become cheaper by 7%, falling from 12% to 5%. So that's the 7% savings on medicines that you can see over there. For personal care, items such as soaps and shampoos are down by about 10%, once again based on the Kotak estimate across categories in this basket. And well, yes, the biggest relief is coming in on the life and health insurance premiums, because they have been completely exempt from GST, which means they were charged at 18% earlier, 0% GST now, which means the total saving for your insurance bill is straight up 18%. Let's begin with the families and take a look at their individual savings. For family A, let's start with the category of grocery. And family A spends 4,000 rupees a month and now saves 160 rupees a month when it comes to grocery. So there you have it, 4,000 rupees in spend, 160 rupees in saving. That is the case coming in for family A. Family B now, it saves 640 rupees after a spend of 16,000 crore rupees a month on grocery, and family C spends 45,000 crore rupees and saves 1,800 in terms of groceries. So the final saving here is 4%, and those are the individual amounts that all the 3 families are saving, accumulating up to 4% of their total bill. Next up, let's take a look at dining out. Family A spends 2,000 and saves 140 rupees per month. Family B is spending 4,500 and saves 315. And lastly, family C spends 10,000 rupees a month and saves 700, making the overall savings 7% for all these 3 families. So there you can see it over there. Now let's move on to entertainment and talk about what's happening over there. No change at all. Similar for telecom. So no change when it comes to both of these categories. Coming to medicines now, family A has no spend on medicines as of now. We'll take a look at what family B is doing. They're spending 4,000 and saving 280. Family C spending 5,000 rupees and saving spending 5,000 and saving a final amount of 350 rupees, which brings the final cumulative amount for all these 3 families to a 7% saving. Moving on to the personal care category, family A is spending 500 and saving 50. For family B, it's a spend of 2,500 and saving 250 rupees. Family C spends 5,000 and saves 500 rupees. And remember, the final GST rate cut over here is 10%. So that's the overall saving coming in. Now let's talk about the big category, the biggest beneficiary coming in out of the entire GST ambit, and that is insurance. First up, on health insurance, when we polled these 3 families, family A spends 1,250 rupees and saves 225 rupees. You have family B that's spending 3,000 rupees and saving 540. Family C spends 6,500 and saves 1,170, which after doing the math, remember 18% complete exemption, so 18% is the saving, and these are the individual amounts that all these 3 families are saving for health insurance premiums. And lastly, similarly for life insurance, Family A as of now has no spend, but if you take a look at family B, they spend 8,000 and save 1440. Family C spends 25,000 per month on life insurance premium and save 4,500. So the final saving here, just as was the case with health insurance, is 18%. So across families A, B and C, monthly savings, let's take a look at what the overall monthly savings picture is. That's the percentage saved, anywhere between 6.5 to 7.8, so 6.5 to 8% of monthly savings overall, a meaningful cushion for household budgets. Now that money can easily flow into higher discretionary spending or investments like SIPs and equities. In short, the GST cut just got friendlier for you and your pocket.
Expectations are actually running high. Markets have already run off in their expectations, and groceries, personal care, medicines, dining out, consumers are actually set to feel the change. But how will it impact the households actually? We will talk about it, and what will it mean for inflation, which sectors stand to gain. We'll analyze all that in detail and how the GST rate rationalization is going to have impact right from common man to an investor in market. We'll touch base with the guest for that, but before that, let's go across to my colleague Anjali, who is actually standing in a store to tell you how much companies are preparing before September 22nd, and especially ITC and Nestle have made plans.
With the GST rates coming into effect from the 22nd of September, FMCG companies have gone ahead and decided to take some measures to reduce prices and increase grammages for their products. We've gathered from exclusive sources that Nestle and ITC are going to be passing on these benefits to their customers in the form of price cuts. Speaking specifically about Nestle, what sources tell us is that they will be taking in some price cuts for the larger packs and increasing the grammages for the smaller packs. Now, Maggi, coffee, chocolate, milk, all of these products are going to get cheaper. Maggi, for example, for the larger pack of 280 grams, they are going to increase the grammage to 300 grams and also reduce the price for that SKU from 60 rupees to 58 rupees. As for the other variants of the noodles, there is going to be about a 6% price reduction there. Talking about coffee, Nescafe for all packs larger than 45 grams, they are going to be taking in some price reductions around 11% roughly, and the grammage increases will be taken in for the SKUs that are less than 45 grams. The ready-to-drink beverages will also see a 5 rupee price reduction on the Tetra packs, and the ultra-high temperature milk, all the Tetra pack milk, the 1 liter will see a 3 rupee price reduction. Other than this, we are also gathering from sources at ITC that they are in the process of formulating a final price list given the huge number of SKUs. That is taking some time, but in the meanwhile, they have communicated to distributors and retailers about the discount schemes that they will be running for the existing stock. Now, this is being done to ensure that post 22nd September, there is parity in the prices of the older stock and the newer stock with new prices that will be sent to them.
To answer all those questions, we have with us a stellar panel. Harsh Rungta, founder, Fee-Only Investment Advisors. We also have Madhvi Arora, lead economist, MK Global. And joining with us, Avnish Roy, Executive Director, Novama Institutional Equities. Madhvi, I want to come to you first. How much of the impact of this cut or rationalization will have on economy per se? Because that is the pertinent question which all the stakeholders are asking.
So we have to see it from 2 points, right? One would be the balance sheet impact on the government of India and the balance sheet impact on the household. From the government's point of view, they are suggesting that they will be bearing a loss of nearly 500 billion rupees, which is around, less than 0.2% of GDP. Now, that is coming from the loss they would incur because of the cuts in GST to the tune of around 938 billion, and the net gain that they would make by, implementing the sin tax, which would be close to around 450 billion. So, net, they are losing in their balance sheet roughly around 480 to 500 billion, which is less than 0.2% of GDP. On the other hand, from the household perspective point of view, whatever is the loss of the exchequer should be the gain to the other economic agents, whether it's household or, the other private economic agents. But here, obviously, the impact is directly to the household. Apart from this, we also would be seeing dissolution of the compensation cess. which was roughly around 1,500 to 600 billion rupees. Again, close to around 0.4% of GDP. So if you include that and the net loss to the the next checker, the balance sheet gain to the household could be as high as 0.6% of GDP. And if I look at the fiscal multipliers, generally the fiscal multiplier of indirect tax cut is close to around 1.2x. So the net gain to the economy, assuming that the government actually incurs this loss on its book and does not cut its fiscal loss by reducing its expenditure, just from the balance sheet point of the government of India, could be around 0.3 to 0.4% of GDP over the medium term. But in the near term, I think the household could see almost 0.6% of GDP worth of benefit in their balance sheet over an annualized basis.
Harsh, I want to understand from you the pertinent question: where will these savings go? If somebody is saving 6 to 8% a month, do you think SIP number is going to be bigger, or you think even bank will get some of the share of the savings?
I think this is something that will need to be sort of deciphered. There will be first order effects and then there would be second order effects, etc. The first order effect of something getting cheaper, classical economists suggest that, okay, the demand for that goes up. Now, some of these items, I mean, there is only so much toothpaste that you can sort of use. And, therefore, I don't know, I don't want to pick a specific category. So one is that for certain items, things like consumer durables, etc., where, the GST has come down dramatically, the demand may actually go up. People might actually spend more on them. They may actually move to that category from, say, an air cooler earlier to an air conditioner. It's very much possible. Secondly, whether they will save or spend also depends on what is, a 3-4 big jargon, the marginal propensity to consume. When you have additional money in your hand, what will people do? So typically, the lower middle class and the middle class will tend to spend more with that money. The slightly upper middle class and richer people will tend to save more. So I think it's very difficult to know today what would happen. But if I was, to take a bet, I would say that the expenditure would go up because we are typically a very, very lower middle class and middle class economy. And I think that is good for the economy because what the government has given up in terms of the rate cuts on GST, probably it will make up on volumes. At least some part of it, it is hopefully will make up on volumes, and that's also good for the economy. So it's not necessary that this will go into savings or into investments.
It has been said that after these regex, there will be impact on the earnings of FMCG basket per se. What is your analysis? How much of this consumption boost will help these companies?
Yeah, see, first is, of course, if you see the government's intent is that companies should pass it on to customer fully. So my sense is initially FMCG companies will look to pass it to end customer at a portfolio level fully to the customer. So to that extent, the benefit for FMCG companies will be more in terms of the operating leverage. As I said, in food like biscuits and snacks, it will be a real consumption boost because in these categories, almost 50-60% of the consumption happens at 5 rupee, 10 rupee price point, and customer buys a pack. He doesn't buy X grams of biscuit or X grams of bhujia or namkeen. So in such cases, if the biscuit company is offering 12-13% extra grammage, or the bhujia company is offering 6-7% extra bhujia, that's a real consumption boost. So I would say that yes, there will be, I think, 2 to 5%, 2 to 6% kind of a EBITDA boost for many companies because of these reasons, because this is operating leverage kind of benefit. Here we are assuming that companies are fully passing it on to the end customer. But I would say that currently there is two kind of lack of clarity for consumer companies. One is what happens to the inverted duty structure, because some of the raw material is still at 18% kind of a GST rate. The services are at 18% GST rate. So if the end product is at 5% and the service and some of the RM is at 18%, full offset won't be possible. Yes, refund is a mechanism, but please note, for service, the refund is not available. So there is this bit of challenge. The second bit of challenge is some of the factories of the FMCG companies get mega project benefit, they get some fiscal benefit. Now again, those will continue. But issue is again at a SGST rate of 2.5% because the total rate, new rate of GST is 5%. So SGST is where they get a refund. At such a low GST rate, they will not be able to fully use it. So in such cases, state governments will have to extend the tenure. Now, there is no full clarity because these are discussions which are yet to happen.
Right, Avnish, point taken. Due to paucity of time, I am just interrupting in between. So 2 to 6% EBITDA is what Avnish is expecting. But to you, Madhvi, I want to understand if these things happen, if spends are increasing, if companies are also making money, often it is been noticed that it will be inflationary too. What is your assessment on that front? Of course, GDP impact will be there, but on other hand, RBI has been quite comfortable on inflation till now. So do you think it will have inflationary adjustments as well?
So in the first leg, actually it will be disinflationary, right? Because the rates have come down. So our math suggests that we would see, almost 100 bips impact on CPI on an annualized basis if the pass on to consumer is almost 100%, which may not be the case, even assuming a 60-70% pass through to consumers in terms of GST rate cuts. There could be an annualized gain of roughly around 50-60 bips on CPI inflation. So first leg will be definitely disinflationary in nature, which will essentially do a leg down across the next 1 year or so. With regard to demand-led inflation, to be very honest, at this point in time, we are at a, last leg of our growth cycle or late cycle economics, rather, I would say, which basically means that the demand push, needed would be much higher for it to be an inflationary impact. To be very fair, in the last 2 years consecutively, we are actually seeing core inflation led by demand side or ex-gold being pretty much subdued. So I don't think it's a demand-led inflation problem. The whole idea of improving demand is to essentially have healthy, inflation in the economy. So I don't think it's going to be a trouble for the Reserve Bank of India per se. I think the whole idea is to essentially reignite consumption economics, which has been missing in the last 2 years or 3 years in the, overall private economic agents basket.
Right.
So I think to that extent, we're not too worried on the inflation aspect of it. Okay. In fact, for the year as a whole, we think inflation could be pretty much, as low as 2.5%.
Okay, so that sounds optimistic. And Mr. Rumta, closing thoughts on this entire GST rate rationalization and this little cushion that consumers will get in their budget. How do you think that should be budgeted towards different expenses?
So I think it's been very, very well timed, very well thought through. And I think the immediate impact, and you did this very interesting analysis of the three families, A, B, and C. My own impression is that the first order effect we will see is a jump in both the normal expenditures on FMCG, etc., as well as discretionary items like consumer durables, those that have reduced costs, even those where the GST hasn't come down, because there will be this, substitute sort of an effect that you have now more money available. So maybe you will spend it on things that you might not have otherwise spent. So I think the initial urge from a householder's perspective will be an increase, and we have the festivals right around the corner with the, the standard, festival season is beginning. So I think we will have a really big jumper in both the normal things, the normal buys that people households have, as well as the discretionary expenditure. And I think that is good. And as ma'am was just explaining, I think we have got the cushion to, not let the inflation, the mild inflationary impact that it might possibly have. I think the economy has the cushion to absorb it. So I think we have good times ahead. It definitely is
Definitely.
very, very good news.
Definitely, Mr. Rungta. Thank you so much, Madhvi, Mr. Rungta, as well as Avnish for joining at this hour with your views. With this, it's time for a wrap in this special show. And GST is not just a story of household, a story of markets, a story of policy, story of balance sheets. But more importantly, it is a story of rising with India. Thank you so much for watching.